An Arab millionaire suffers a terrible accident and is saved by a recycler. Their destinies cross in an unexpected way, and the ending will surprise you. The rain poured mercilessly over New York City as Sarah Martinez hurried through the dimly lit streets, her worn shoes splashing through puddles. Her weathered cart, filled with recyclables collected throughout the day, rattled behind her as she navigated the familiar path home. The thought of her 5-year-old daughter, Luna, waiting with their elderly neighbor, kept her moving despite her exhaustion. The evening had been particularly challenging. With fewer recyclables than usual due to the storm, Sarah's muscles ached from hours of sorting through bins, but she couldn't stop yet. Luna needed food, and their rent was due in 3 days. The weight of single motherhood pressed heavily on her shoulders, each step a reminder of her responsibilities. A deafening crash pierced through the rainfall, followed by the screech of metal against metal. Sarah's heart jumped as she instinctively ran toward the sound, leaving her cart behind. Around the corner, she found a sleek Tesla wrapped around a utility pole, its front end crumpled like paper. Sparks flew from exposed wires, and the acrid smell of leaking battery fluid filled the air. Through the spider-webbed windshield, she spotted an unconscious man slumped over the steering wheel. Without hesitation, Sarah rushed to the driver's side, her hands trembling as she fought. They had barely cleared the vehicle when a loud pop signaled the start of an electrical fire. Sarah dragged the man several yards further, ensuring they were at a safe distance. Rain soaked through her clothes as she checked his vital signs, relieved to find a steady pulse. In the distance, sirens wailed, growing louder. Sarah knew she couldn't stay. Luna was waiting, and she couldn't risk getting involved in complicated questions or paperwork. As emergency vehicles rounded the corner, she melted into the shadows, retrieving her cart and resuming her journey home. Later that night, as Sarah tucked Luna into bed in their tiny studio apartment, her daughter's innocent questions about her late return went unanswered. She simply kissed Luna's forehead and promised to make pancakes in the morning, but sleep eluded Sarah as she replayed the evening's events in her mind. The man's face haunted her thoughts. There had been something familiar about him, though she couldn't place where she might have seen him before, perhaps on television or in a newspaper. She pushed the thoughts aside, knowing tomorrow would bring another long day of collecting recyclables. What Sarah couldn't know was that her act of heroism had been captured by a nearby security camera. The grainy footage would soon find its way into the hands of someone determined to track down the mysterious woman who had saved his life. As she finally drifted off to sleep, Sarah remained unaware that her simple act of courage would set in motion a chain of events that would transform her life forever. In his hospital room across town, Karim al-Rahman regained consciousness, surrounded by worried faces and beeping machines. The last thing he remembered was swerving to avoid a stray cat on the rain-slicked road. As his head cleared, one thought consumed him: finding the woman who had pulled him from the wreckage. The security footage played on his tablet, showing a figure in a worn jacket dragging him to safety before disappearing into the night. Karim, heir to Ecotech Industries, one of the world's largest renewable energy companies, had never believed in fate. But as he watched the footage for the 100th time, he couldn't shake the feeling that this chance encounter was meant to be something more. His father had always taught him that true character was revealed in moments of crisis, and this unknown woman had shown extraordinary courage with no expectation of reward. Karim al-Rahman sat in his penthouse office overlooking Manhattan, the morning sun glinting off the glass buildings that stretched toward the horizon. 2 weeks had passed since the accident, and his determination to find his mysterious savior had only grown stronger. The security footage played on a loop on one of his monitors, while his team of investigators provided daily updates on their search. Mr. al-Rahman, his assistant Marcus, entered with a thick folder. "We've finally identified her. Sarah Martinez, age 28, single mother to a 5-year-old daughter. She's been working as a recycler for the past 6 years, operating mainly in the Lower East Side." Karim leaned forward, studying the photograph attached to the file. The woman's eyes held a fierce determination despite her worn appearance, the same determination he'd glimpsed in the grainy security footage as she'd pulled him from the wreckage. "Her background check shows no criminal history," Marcus continued. "She lives in a small apartment on Essex Street, works 7 days a week collecting recyclables, and her daughter attends the local public school. Their situation is modest, to put it mildly. Karim absorbed the information, his mind already formulating a plan. His father had built ecotech industries from the ground up, always emphasizing the importance of recognizing true value in people, not just in business opportunities. This woman had risked her life to save a stranger. That spoke volumes about her character. "What's the status of our sustainability department restructuring?" Karim asked, an idea taking shape. "We're still looking for an assistant to handle community outreach and basic administrative duties. The position's been open for 3 weeks." "Perfect." Karim stood, walking to the window. "Arrange a meeting with Ms. Martinez. Don't mention the accident or my involvement. Present it as a job opportunity through our community employment initiative." Marcus hesitated. "Sir, she has no corporate experience, no college degree. She has something more valuable: integrity and courage. Besides, who better to understand our recycling programs than someone who's worked in the field?" Karim turned, his expression resolute. "Make it happen, Marcus." The next day, Sarah received an unexpected call while sorting through recyclables in an alley. The professional voice on the other end explained that her name had been recommended for a position at Ecotech Industries. Sarah almost laughed at first, thinking it was a prank, but the caller's persistence made her listen. That evening, as Luna colored at their small kitchen table, Sarah researched Ecotech Industries on her old laptop. The company was a global leader in renewable energy and sustainable technologies. The salary mentioned in the email would change their lives completely. No more struggling to make rent, no more skipping meals to ensure Luna could eat. "Mama, why are you smiling?" Luna asked, looking up from her drawing. Sarah realized she had been grinning at the screen. "Because maybe, mi amor, things are about to get better for us." The interview was scheduled for the following week. Sarah spent her savings on a modest but professional outfit from a thrift store and practiced answering potential questions in front of her bathroom mirror. Her neighbor, Mrs. Chen, agreed to watch Luna during the interview, adding her own words of encouragement. Walking into the gleaming Ecotech building, Sarah felt like an imposter. The marble lobby and well-dressed employees made her painfully aware of her second-hand clothes and calloused hands. The elevator ride to the 45th floor seemed endless, each floor bringing her closer to what felt like an impossible dream. Marcus greeted her professionally, leading her through a maze of modern offices. "Mr. Al-Rahman is particularly interested in meeting you," he explained, stopping before an impressive oak door. Sarah's heart raced as she entered the office, but nothing could have prepared her for the shock of recognition when she saw the man behind the desk. Though he looked different in an impeccable suit than he had unconscious in the wreckage, there was no mistaking him. Their eyes met, and in that moment, Sarah realized this was no ordinary job interview. The question was, did he recognize her as well? And more importantly, what did it mean for her chances at this life-changing opportunity? As she took her seat, Sarah steeled herself for whatever might come next, drawing on the same strength that had helped her survive all these years as a single mother. Sarah's hands trembled slightly as she sat across from Karim Al-Rahman, the weight of recognition hanging heavy in the air between them. To her surprise, he conducted the interview professionally, focusing on her experience with recycling systems and community engagement, rather than mentioning the accident. "Your practical knowledge of urban waste management is exactly what we need," Karim said, reviewing her simple resume. "We're looking to revolutionize our community recycling programs, and your perspective would be invaluable." Sarah found herself relaxing as she spoke about her experiences, the challenges faced by community recyclers, and her ideas for improvement. 6 years of navigating the city's recycling ecosystem had taught her more than any classroom could. "When can you start?" Karim asked at the interview's conclusion. Sarah blinked, caught off guard by the directness of his question. "You're offering me the position, unless you have reservations." His eyes held a hint of amusement. "No, I can start immediately." Sarah straightened in her chair, determination replacing her initial uncertainty. The next few weeks passed in a whirlwind of change. Sarah's new salary allowed her to move Luna to a better apartment, enroll her in after-school programs, and finally breathe easier about their future. The corporate world, however, proved to be a different kind of challenge. Victoria Chen, the Sustainability Department's senior coordinator, made her disapproval clear from day one. "I hope we have standards here at Ecotech. Despite Victoria's cold reception, Sarah threw herself into learning everything about her new role. She stayed late studying company policies, taught herself to use the complex software systems, and carefully observed the corporate culture she needed to navigate. Luna adapted to their new life with the resilience of childhood, delighting in their larger apartment and the small luxuries they could now afford. "Mama, can we get a puppy now?" she asked one evening as they walked home from her new school. "Let's give it some time, mi amor," Sarah laughed, squeezing her daughter's hand. "We're still adjusting to all these changes." At work, Sarah's practical knowledge began to shine through. During a department meeting, she identified several inefficiencies in the company's recycling collection routes, drawing from her years of street-level experience. "These modifications could reduce fuel consumption by 20%, she explained, pointing to her carefully prepared presentation, "and increase collection efficiency by at least 30%. Karim, who had quietly entered the meeting room, spoke up from the back. "Implement these changes immediately. Excellent work, Ms. Martinez." Victoria's face darkened at the praise. Later that day, Sarah overheard her speaking to colleagues in the break room. "It's obvious why she got the job. Have you seen how Al-Rahman looks at her? There's definitely something going on there." The whispers and sideways glances increased after that, but Sarah refused to let them affect her performance. She had faced worse challenges raising Luna alone on the streets. One evening, as she worked late finalizing a proposal, Karim appeared at her desk. "You never mentioned that night," he said quietly, referring to the accident for the first time. Sarah met his gaze steadily. "I didn't do it for recognition or reward." "I know," he replied. "That's precisely why I wanted you here. Your integrity, your resilience, they're rare qualities in this world." Their conversation was interrupted by Luna's arrival with Mrs. Chen, who now picked her up from after-school programs. The little girl's eyes widened at the sight of Karim in his elegant suit. "Are you Mama's boss?" Luna asked boldly, earning a mortified look from Sarah. Karim knelt to Luna's level, his formal demeanor softening. "I like to think of myself as your mother's colleague. She's teaching us all very important things about making the world better." As Sarah watched their interaction, she felt a strange warmth in her chest. But Victoria's words echoed in her mind, reminding her of the delicate position she was in. She needed this job, needed the stability it provided for Luna. She couldn't risk complications, especially not with her employer. Yet as Karim engaged Luna in a serious discussion about her favorite ice cream flavors, Sarah couldn't help but notice how natural they looked together. The man who commanded a global corporation was completely at ease talking to a 5-year-old about the merits of chocolate versus strawberry. The moment was perfect, and that's exactly what worried her. In Sarah's experience, perfect moments had a way of shattering when you least expected it. What she didn't know was that the biggest challenge to her new life was already taking shape, orchestrated by those who saw her as a threat to the careful order of their corporate world. As autumn painted Central Park in vibrant colors, Sarah's position at Ecotech Industries grew increasingly complex. Her innovative recycling program had exceeded all expectations, generating substantial cost savings and positive press for the company. However, her success only seemed to intensify Victoria's hostility. "The quarterly review board meeting is next week," Victoria announced during their department briefing, her perfectly manicured nails drumming against the conference table. "We'll need comprehensive documentation of all program metrics. I assume you can handle that, Sarah?" Unless the technical aspects are too challenging. Sarah maintained her composure, remembering the nights she'd spent teaching herself Excel and PowerPoint. "The documentation is already prepared, Victoria. I can send it to you for review if you'd like." Karim, who had been silently observing from the doorway, stepped into the room. "Actually, I'd like Sarah to present the program results herself at the board meeting. Her first-hand experience adds valuable context to the data." Victoria's smile tightened almost imperceptibly. "Of course, Mr. Al-Rahman. Whatever you think is best." Later that afternoon, Sarah found herself alone with Karim in the elevator. "You didn't have to do that," she said quietly. "Do what?" he asked, though his slight smile suggested he knew exactly what she meant. "Intervene. I can handle Victoria's management style. I have no doubt you can handle anything that comes your way, Sarah. But sometimes accepting support isn't the same as needing rescue." The elevator stopped at her floor. "By the way, Would you and Luna like to join me for the Central Park Environmental Fair this weekend? The company has a booth, and I thought Luna might enjoy the educational activities. Sarah hesitated, aware of the whispers that already circulated about their relationship. But Luna had been begging to attend the fair, and she couldn't deny the growing warmth she felt in Karim's presence. "We'd love to," she found herself saying before she could overthink it. Saturday morning found them strolling through Central Park, Luna bouncing excitedly between them as she collected stamps in her young environmentalist passport from each booth. Karim showed surprising patience, answering her endless questions about solar panels and wind turbines. "Look, Mama," Luna exclaimed, pointing to a butterfly garden demonstration. "Can we plant one at home?" "Our balcony might be a bit small for that, mi amor," Sarah laughed. "We could start with a few pollinator-friendly plants," Karim suggested. "I know an excellent nursery that specializes in urban gardening." Sarah watched as he lifted Luna to see the chrysalises hanging in their mesh enclosure, struck by how natural they looked together. For a moment she allowed herself to imagine a future where moments like these were common, not exceptional. The spell was broken by the sharp click of heels on pavement. Victoria Chen approached their group, her weekend attire no less immaculate than her office wear. "Mr. Al-Rahman, what a surprise. I didn't expect to see you here." Her gaze slid dismissively over Sarah and Luna. "I've been trying to reach you about some concerning discrepancies in the new program's data." Karim's expression cooled noticeably. "Any concerns can be addressed during Monday's board meeting, Victoria. This is personal time." "Of course," Victoria smiled, though it didn't reach her eyes. "I just thought you should be aware that some board members have questions about certain relationships within the department. Appearances matter in our position, after all." The threat in her words was clear. Sarah felt her chest tighten, remembering all the times she'd had to fight to be taken seriously as a single mother from a humble background. "Thank you for your concern," Karim replied, his tone glacial. "I trust the board will be more interested in the program's remarkable success than in unfounded office gossip." Victoria retreated, but the damage was done. The carefree atmosphere of the morning had evaporated, leaving Sarah acutely aware of the precarious nature of her new life. "Don't let her bother you," Karim said softly as they watched Luna examine a display about renewable energy. "Your work speaks for itself." "It's not just about the work," Sarah replied, voicing her fears for the first time. "Luna and we can't afford to lose this opportunity. And people are already talking." "Sarah," Karim turned to face her fully, "I didn't hire you because of what happened that night. I hired you because you possess something rare in this world. Genuine integrity combined with practical wisdom. The board will see that too." His words warmed her, but Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that Victoria's appearance had been more than a coincidence. As they continued through the fair, she found herself wondering what other obstacles might be lurking around the corner, waiting to test her resolve. What she didn't know was that Victoria's concerns were just the beginning of a carefully orchestrated campaign to undermine her position at Ecotech. The real challenge would come from an unexpected direction, threatening not just her job, but the fragile happiness she and Luna had finally found. The crisp autumn air carried a hint of impending winter as Sarah hurried Luna to school. Their morning routine had become a well-choreographed dance of breakfast, backpack checks, and last-minute hugs. As they approached the school gates, Sarah noticed a familiar figure leaning against a nearby tree, his presence as unwelcome as it was unexpected. "Hey, princess!" the man called out, his voice carrying a forced cheerfulness that made Sarah's skin crawl. Luna froze, her small hand tightening around Sarah's. "Mama, is that—" "Go inside, mi amor," Sarah said firmly, placing herself between Luna and the approaching man. "I'll pick you up later." Once Luna was safely inside, Sarah turned to face her daughter's father, steeling herself for the confrontation. "What are you doing here, Jason?" Jason Reeves looked older than his 30 years, his once handsome face hardened by years of poor choices. Can't a father say hello to his own daughter? "It's been what, 4 years?" "5, Sarah corrected, her voice cold. 5 years since you walked out on us. What do you want?" "I've changed, Sarah," Jason insisted, his eyes darting nervously. "I'm clean now, got a steady job. I want to be part of Luna's life." Sarah's laugh was bitter. "And I suppose you just happened to track us down out of the goodness of your heart. It has nothing to do with the fact that we're doing better now." Jason's expression darkened. I have rights, you know, she's my daughter too. You gave up those rights when you chose drugs over your family, Sarah snapped, her patience wearing thin. Stay away from us, Jason. I mean it. As she turned to leave, Jason grabbed her arm. This isn't over, Sarah. I'll be seeing you both real soon. Sarah wrenched her arm free and hurried away, her mind racing. She had worked so hard to build a stable life for Luna, and now this ghost from her past threatened to unravel everything. At the office, Sarah struggled to focus on her work. The board meeting was just days away and she knew she needed to be at her best. But Jason's reappearance had shaken her more than she wanted to admit. Sarah? Karim's voice startled her out of her thoughts. Is everything all right? You seem distracted. She hesitated, torn between her desire to keep her personal life separate and her growing trust in Karim. It's complicated, she finally said. Family issues. But I'll handle it. Karim's expression softened with concern. If you need any help or even just someone to talk to, I'm here. His offer of support touched her, but Sarah was acutely aware of Victoria watching them from across the office. Thank you, but I'll be fine. I should get back to these reports. As the day progressed, Sarah's unease grew. She called Mrs. Chen to ensure Luna was picked up safely from school, unable to shake the fear that Jason might try something. When she finally made it home that evening, she found Luna unusually quiet. Mi amor, what's wrong? Sarah asked, kneeling beside her daughter. Luna hesitated, then pulled a crumpled piece of paper from her pocket. The man from this morning, he gave this to me after school. Sarah's heart raced as she unfolded the note. It was a crudely drawn picture of the three of them together, with family forever scrawled across the top. Luna, listen to me, Sarah said, fighting to keep her voice calm. That man, he's not a safe person. If he tries to talk to you again, you need to tell a teacher right away, okay? Luna nodded solemnly, her eyes wide with confusion and a hint of fear. That night, after Luna was asleep, Sarah paced their small living room, her mind whirling with possibilities. She knew Jason was unpredictable, capable of both charm and manipulation. The thought of him trying to worm his way back into their lives terrified her. A soft knock at the door made her jump. Cautiously she approached, peering through the peephole. To her shock, she saw Karim standing in the hallway, looking uncharacteristically nervous. Sarah opened the door, confusion evident on her face. Karim, what are you doing here? I'm sorry for the late visit, he said, his eyes filled with concern. But after seeing you today, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was seriously wrong. I wanted to make sure you and Luna were okay. His genuine worry touched her deeply, breaking through the walls she had carefully constructed. Before she knew it, Sarah found herself inviting him in, the whole story of Jason and her fears for Luna's safety pouring out. Karim listened intently, his expression growing more serious with each detail. Sarah, he said gently when she had finished, you don't have to face this alone. Let me help you. I have resources, connections that could ensure Luna's safety and keep Jason at bay. The offer was tempting, but Sarah hesitated. I can't ask you to get involved in my personal problems. It's not fair to you, and people at work are already talking. Forget about work for a moment, Karim insisted. This is about protecting Luna and your peace of mind. Let me at least put you in touch with a good lawyer, someone who can advise you on your rights. As they talked late into the night, Sarah felt a weight lifting from her shoulders. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to believe that she didn't have to face every challenge alone. What neither of them realized was that their late-night meeting had not gone unnoticed. Across the street, Victoria Chen sat in her parked car, a satisfied smirk playing on her lips as she snapped photos with her telephoto lens. The board meeting was just days away, and she now had exactly what she needed to discredit Sarah once and for all. The days leading up to the board meeting were a whirlwind of preparation and anxiety for Sarah. She threw herself into perfecting her presentation, determined to prove her worth beyond any doubt. Karim had connected her with a reputable family lawyer, providing her with a sense of security she hadn't felt in years. Still, Jason's sudden reappearance and Victoria's thinly veiled hostility weighed heavily on her mind. On the morning of the meeting, Sarah dressed with care, smoothing down her modest but professional suit. Luna, sensing her mother's nervousness, gave her an extra tight hug before leaving for school. You're gonna do great, Mama. Luna said with the unwavering confidence of a child. "You're the smartest person in the whole world." Sarah's heart swelled with love and determination. "Gracias, mi amor. I'll do my best." As she entered the imposing boardroom, Sarah's resolve wavered momentarily. The long table was filled with stern-faced executives, their expensive suits and scrutinizing gazes a stark reminder of how far she'd come from her days as a recycler. Victoria sat near the head of the table, a slight smirk playing on her perfectly painted lips. Karim nodded encouragingly as Sarah took her place at the podium. Taking a deep breath, she launched into her presentation, her voice growing stronger with each slide. She detailed the success of the new recycling initiative, backing up every claim with hard data and real-world examples from her years of experience. And by implementing these changes, we've not only increased our efficiency by 43%, but we've also forged stronger ties with local communities, Sarah concluded. This program has the potential to revolutionize urban recycling across the country. A murmur of approval rippled through the room. Even some of the more skeptical board members looked impressed. Sarah allowed herself a small smile of relief. "Thank you, Ms. Martinez," the board chairman said. "This is certainly impressive work. Are there any questions for Ms. Martinez before we move on?" Victoria's hand shot up immediately. "I have a few concerns I'd like to address." Sarah's stomach tightened as Victoria stood, clutching a manila folder. "While the program's results are certainly noteworthy," Victoria began, her tone dripping with false sincerity, "I'm afraid I have to question the ethical considerations behind its implementation." She opened the folder, passing around several photographs. Sarah's blood ran cold as she recognized herself and Karim outside her apartment building, taken on the night he had come to offer his support. "It seems Ms. Martinez has been receiving quite a bit of personal attention from Mr. Al-Rahman," Victoria continued. "One has to wonder if her rapid rise within the company is truly based on merit alone." The room fell silent as the implications of Victoria's words sank in. Sarah felt her cheeks burning with a mixture of anger and humiliation. "Furthermore," Victoria pressed on, producing another set of documents, "I've uncovered some discrepancies in Ms. Martinez's background check. It seems she failed to disclose certain personal complications that could potentially impact her ability to perform her duties." Sarah's heart raced as she realized Victoria had somehow discovered Jason's reappearance. The carefully constructed life she had built for herself, and Luna seemed to be crumbling before her eyes. Just as the whispers around the table grew louder, Karim stood up abruptly. "That's enough, Victoria. These baseless insinuations have no place in a professional setting." He turned to address the board directly. Ms. Martinez was hired based solely on her exceptional qualifications and unique perspective. Her work speaks for itself, as evidenced by the remarkable results we've just seen. As for her personal life, it is precisely that. Personal. It has no bearing on her professional capabilities. The chairman cleared his throat, clearly uncomfortable with the turn the meeting had taken. "Perhaps we should take a brief recess to collect ourselves." As the room began to empty, Sarah remained rooted to the spot, her mind reeling. Karim approached her, his expression a mix of concern and barely contained anger. "I'm so sorry, Sarah," he said softly. "I had no idea Victoria would stoop this low. We'll fight this, I promise." Sarah nodded numbly, unable to form words. As they exited the boardroom, she caught sight of Victoria, speaking in hushed tones, with a man whose face sent a chill down her spine. It was Jason, looking more polished than she had seen him in years. The pieces fell into place with sickening clarity. Victoria had not only been spying on her, but had somehow made contact with Jason, potentially offering him incentives to cause trouble. The storm that had been gathering was about to break, and Sarah feared she might not be strong enough to weather it. As she leaned against the wall, trying to steady her breathing, Sarah's phone buzzed with a text message. It was from Luna's school, and the contents made her blood run cold. "Ms. Martinez, please contact us immediately regarding an incident involving Luna and an unauthorized individual attempting to remove her from school grounds." In that moment, Sarah realized that the battle for her future, and Luna's, was about to reach its critical point. With Karim by her side, she straightened her shoulders, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The fight for everything she held dear was just beginning. Sarah's world narrowed to a pinpoint of fear as she raced out of the ecotech building, Karim close behind. The sleek company car sped through New York traffic, each second feeling like an eternity. "She's safe," Karim reassured her, his hand steady on the wheel. "The school said they stopped him. Luna's okay." But Sarah couldn't breathe easy until she saw Luna with her own eyes. As they pulled up to the school, she was out of the car before it fully stopped. Inside the principal's office, Luna sat huddled in a chair, her eyes wide and tear-stained. The moment she saw Sarah, she launched herself into her mother's arms. "Mama, he tried to take me, but I remembered what you said. I yelled for the teacher," Luna sobbed into Sarah's shoulder. Sarah held her daughter tightly, her own tears falling freely. "You did so well, mi amor. I'm so proud of you." The principal, a kind-faced woman named Dr. Thompson, approached with a concerned expression. "Ms. Martinez, the man claimed to be Luna's father. He had some old photos, but thankfully our staff followed protocol and contacted you immediately." "Thank you," Sarah managed, her voice shaky. "Jason, he's not allowed near Luna. There's no custody agreement." Karim, who had been speaking quietly with the school security guard, joined them. "The police are on their way. They'll want to take your statement, Sarah." The next few hours passed in a blur of police interviews and paperwork. Jason had fled before the authorities arrived, but his attempt to take Luna was now on record. The family lawyer, Karim, had connected Sarah with arrived, helping her file for an emergency restraining order. As evening fell, Sarah found herself sitting on a bench outside the school, emotionally and physically drained. Luna had finally fallen asleep in Karim's car, watched over by a kind police officer. "How could I let this happen?" Sarah whispered, more to herself than to Karim, who sat beside her. "I should have known Jason would try something like this." Karim's voice was gentle but firm. "This is not your fault, Sarah. You've done everything to protect Luna. We'll make sure she stays safe." Sarah turned to face him, really looking at him for the first time since the chaos began. His tie was loosened, his usually impeccable hair slightly disheveled. He had dropped everything, the board meeting, his responsibilities, to be here for her and Luna. "Why?" she asked simply, her voice barely above a whisper. Karim met her gaze, his eyes filled with an emotion Sarah was almost afraid to name. "Because you matter to me, both of you do, more than I realized until today." The moment was interrupted by the return of the lawyer and police detective. "Ms. Martinez, we've filed the restraining order. It will be in effect immediately. We've also put out an APB for Jason Reeves. He won't get near Luna again." Relief washed over Sarah, but it was tempered by the realization of how much her life had changed in just a few short hours. "What happens now?" she asked, feeling suddenly lost. Karim squeezed her hand reassuringly. "Now, Tomorrow we'll deal with everything else." As they drove to a secure hotel Karim had arranged, Sarah's phone buzzed incessantly with messages from Ecotech. The aftermath of the interrupted board meeting loomed large, but it felt insignificant compared to Luna's safety. In the quiet of the hotel room, with Luna finally sleeping peacefully, Sarah allowed herself to break down. The tears she had been holding back all day came in a flood, and she found herself enveloped in Karim's strong embrace. "I've worked so hard," she sobbed, "to give Luna a better life, to prove myself, and now it's all falling apart." Karim held her tighter, his voice a soothing murmur. "Nothing is falling apart. You're stronger than you know, Sarah. We'll face this together. All of it. The board, Jason. Whatever comes next. You're not alone anymore." As Sarah's tears subsided, she looked up at Karim, seeing the sincerity in his eyes. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to believe that maybe, just maybe, she didn't have to carry the weight of the world on her shoulders alone. But as dawn broke over the city, bringing with it the promise of a new day, Sarah knew that the greatest challenges still lay ahead. The board would be demanding answers, Victoria would be pressing her advantage, and Jason was still out there, a threat to the life she had built. Sarah watched the sunrise, Luna curled up beside her, and Karim's steady presence nearby. She drew strength from them both, steeling herself for the battles to come. Whatever happened next, she would face it head-on, with a determination born from years of struggle and the newfound hope of not having to face it alone. The day ahead would test her in ways she had never been tested before, but Sarah Martinez was ready. For Luna, for herself, and for the future she now dared to imagine, she would stand strong against whatever storms were yet to come. The following days unfolded in a whirlwind of activity as Sarah navigated the aftermath of Jason's attempted kidnapping and the fallout from the interrupted board meeting. With Karim's unwavering support and the assistance of the family lawyer, Sarah obtained a permanent restraining order against Jason. The police increased patrols around their neighborhood, providing an added layer of security that allowed Sarah to breathe a little easier. At Ecotech, the atmosphere was tense. Victoria's accusations had left a cloud of uncertainty hanging over the sustainability department. Sarah returned to work with her head held high, determined to prove her worth through actions rather than words. One morning, as Sarah settled into her desk, Karim appeared at her cubicle. "The board has called for a special meeting this afternoon," he said, his expression serious but not unkind. "They want to address the concerns raised at the last meeting." Sarah's stomach tightened, but she nodded resolutely. "I'll be ready." As she gathered her materials for the presentation, Sarah overheard whispers from nearby colleagues. "I heard she's only here because she's sleeping with the boss," one voice murmured. "No way," another replied. "Have you seen her work? Nobody gets results like that just by batting their eyelashes." Sarah squared her shoulders, letting the second voice bolster her confidence. She had earned her place here, and it was time to remind everyone of that fact. The boardroom was packed when Sarah entered, with every executive in attendance, including some joining virtually from international offices. Victoria sat near the head of the table, her smug expression barely concealed. The chairman called the meeting to order. "Ms. Martinez, in light of recent events, the board feels it necessary to reassess your position and the sustainability program as a whole. Do you have anything to say before we begin?" Sarah took a deep breath, stepping up to the podium. "Yes, I do." She launched into a presentation that was part passionate defense of her work and part vision for the future. She addressed Victoria's accusations head-on, her voice steady and clear. "Yes, Mr. Al-Rahman has been supportive of my work, as he is with all promising initiatives in this company. But every decision, every innovation in this program came from my years of hands-on experience and the dedicated team I've built." Sarah clicked through slides showing the tangible impacts of her recycling program: increased efficiency, cost savings, and positive community engagement. "As for my personal life," she continued, her gaze sweeping across the room, "I am a single mother who has fought hard to provide a better future for my daughter. The recent attempt to use my past struggles against me only highlights the importance of the work we do here. We're not just improving recycling systems, we're creating opportunities for people to build better lives." The room fell silent as Sarah concluded her presentation. Even Victoria's smug expression had faltered, replaced by a look of grudging respect. The chairman cleared his throat. "Thank you, Ms. Martinez. That was illuminating. Does anyone have any questions?" To everyone's surprise, it was Victoria who spoke up. I may have been hasty in my previous assessment," she said, her voice strained but sincere. "The results speak for themselves. Perhaps there's room for collaboration in expanding this program." The tension in the room visibly eased. Board members began to discuss the potential for scaling up Sarah's initiatives, with several international executives expressing interest in implementing similar programs in their regions. As the meeting adjourned, Sarah felt a wave of relief wash over her. She had faced her challenges head-on and emerged stronger for it. Karim approached her, his eyes shining with pride. "You were incredible in there," he said softly. "I knew you could do it." Sarah allowed herself a small smile. "We did it together. I couldn't have gotten through this without your support." As they left the boardroom, Sarah's phone buzzed with a text from Mrs. Chen. "Luna's school play starting soon. She's so excited." Sarah's heart swelled with love and pride for her daughter. She turned to Karim, a question in her eyes. He grinned, already reaching for his coat. "Let's go. We wouldn't want to miss Luna's big debut." They arrived at the school just as the play was beginning. Luna, dressed as a bright green leaf, beamed when she spotted them in the audience. As Sarah watched her daughter perform, she felt a profound sense of peace settle over her. The challenges of the past weeks had tested her in ways she never imagined, but they had also shown her the strength of the support system she had built. From Mrs. Chen's unwavering help to the colleagues who had stood by her, and most importantly, Karim's steadfast presence, Sarah realized she was no longer facing the world alone. As the play ended and Luna ran into her arms, Sarah held her daughter close, breathing in the scent of her hair. Karim stood nearby, his smile warm and full of promise. "Mama, did you see me? I remembered all my lines," Luna exclaimed. "You were perfect, mi amor," Sarah said, her voice thick with emotion. "I'm so proud of you." Looking up, she met Karim's gaze over Luna's head. In that moment, Sarah allowed herself to imagine a future filled with more moments like this, a future where the struggles of her past gave way to the joy and stability she had always dreamed of for Luna and herself. As they left the school, hand in hand with Luna skipping between them, Sarah knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, she was ready to face them. With love, determination, and the support of those who truly cared, she had not just survived but found a way to thrive. The sun was setting over the city, painting the sky in hues of pink and gold. For Sarah, it felt like the dawn of a new chapter, one filled with hope, possibility, and the strength that comes from overcoming life's greatest obstacles. In the months that followed, Sarah's life settled into a new rhythm, one filled with both challenges and unexpected joys. Her recycling program at Ecotech Industries expanded rapidly, with cities across the country clamoring to implement her innovative strategies. The board, impressed by her resilience and results, promoted her to Director of Sustainability Initiatives. Victoria, in a surprising turn of events, became one of Sarah's strongest allies. The two women found common ground in their shared passion for environmental conservation, and their combined expertise led to groundbreaking projects that put Ecotech at the forefront of sustainable technology. One crisp autumn morning, Sarah stood at the podium of a major environmental conference, addressing a room full of industry leaders and policymakers. "The key to effective urban recycling isn't just about technology," she explained, her voice confident and clear. "It's about understanding the communities we serve, from the ground up. Every city, every neighborhood has unique challenges and opportunities. Our job is to listen, adapt, and innovate." As applause filled the room, Sarah caught Karim's eye in the audience. His proud smile warmed her heart, reminding her of how far they'd come together. Later that evening, as they walked through Central Park with Luna, Sarah reflected on the journey that had brought them to this moment. "Remember when we first came here?" Karim asked, gesturing to the butterfly garden they were passing. "Luna wanted to plant one on your balcony." Luna, now 6 and full of even more energy, piped up. "And now we have a whole garden on the roof of our building. Can we add more butterflies, Mama?" Sarah laughed, ruffling her daughter's hair. "Of course, mi amor. We'll make it a paradise for butterflies." The community garden project had been Karim's idea, a way to bring Sarah's passion for sustainability directly to their neighborhood. It had quickly become a source of pride for the entire building, with residents of all ages pitching in to tend the plants and learn about urban ecology. As they neared the center of the park, Karim suddenly seemed nervous. "Sarah," he began, taking her hand, "there's something I've been wanting to ask you." Sarah's heart raced as Karim knelt down, producing a small velvet box from his pocket. Luna gasped in delight, clearly in on the secret. "Sarah Martinez," Karim said, his voice full of emotion, "you've shown me what true strength and resilience look like. You've taught me the value of seeing the world from a different perspective. Will you do me the honor of becoming my wife?" Tears welled up in Sarah's eyes as she looked at the man before her, the man who had stood by her through her darkest moments, who had embraced Luna as his own, who had seen her potential when others doubted. "Yes," she whispered, then louder, "Yes!" Luna cheered as Karim slipped the ring onto Sarah's finger. It was simple, yet elegant, with a small emerald that reminded Sarah of the first recycling bin she'd ever sorted through. As they walked home, hand in hand with Luna skipping ahead, Sarah marveled at how life could change so dramatically. From struggling single mother to respected executive, from lonely nights to a family filled with love. It was more than she had ever dared to dream. The future stretched out before them, bright with possibility. Sarah knew there would be more challenges to face, more obstacles to overcome. But now she faced them not alone, but with a partner by her side and a community supporting her. That night, as Sarah tucked Luna into bed, her daughter asked sleepily, "Mama, are we going to live happily ever after now?" Sarah smiled, kissing Luna's forehead. "Mi amor, happily ever after isn't something that just happens. It's something we build day by day with love and hard work. But yes, I think we're off to a very good start. As she joined Karim on their balcony, overlooking the city they both loved, Sarah felt a deep sense of peace. The lights of New York twinkled below, reminding her of all the lives touched by her work, all the positive changes still to come. "What are you thinking?" Karim asked, wrapping his arms around her. Sarah leaned into his embrace. "I'm thinking about how sometimes the most beautiful things can grow from the most unlikely places, like flowers blooming in an abandoned lot, or love blossoming from a chance encounter on a rainy night." Karim nodded, understanding the reference to the night she had saved his life. "You've always had a gift for seeing the potential in things others overlook," he said softly. As they stood there looking out at the city they were helping to transform, Sarah knew that this was just the beginning. There were more innovations to create, more lives to improve, more love to share. The journey from recycler to executive, from solitary struggle to cherished partnership, had been long and often difficult. But standing here now, with the warmth of family surrounding her and the promise of a brighter future ahead, Sarah knew that every challenge had been worth it. In the gentle breeze of the New York night, surrounded by the garden they had built together, Sarah and Karim looked toward the horizon, ready to write the next chapter of their story, one of love, sustainability, and the endless possibilities that come from seeing the value in every person and every discarded thing.